right, welcome into Ethan Skolnick Starting 9 here at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. I'm here every Tuesday and Wednesday, in addition to my duties hosting 5 on the floor. You can check out the latest episode of that. Greg, Alex, and I, it's all over the podcast feeds as we speak. We went over which Heat players and coaches have the best chance to win postseason awards. So make sure that you check that out. Had a spirited debate about that, and I actually went a direction that most people would not have expected. But yesterday we talked Heat on this program. You can check out that episode with our guy Brady Hawk, who, as I discussed with him, was not alive the last time the Dolphins made the playoffs. Not made the playoffs, but won a playoff game. Actually, he was minus 3 years old. And we talked about how this has become a Heat town as a result of that, and how the Heat always have to carry this town because of the struggles of the football teams. But today, we're going to talk Dolphins and the struggle of that football team, and particularly about Chris Grier. We're going to do that with Juan Cardona, who's going to join me here at 9:15. And we're going to use a handy little chart that our guy Kai gave me, and he'll be on the show probably here with us next week. All right, before we do, we're sponsored, as always, by our friends over at UBreak Wheel Fix. That's right. Go to ubreakwheelfix.com. You need your wheels repaired. You just need them spruced up. You want to get the Vice colors. You want to get whatever it is, the colors that the Heat are putting on their new jerseys, which hopefully they don't actually ultimately unveil. You want to get the Dolphins aqua and orange, just not after losing 35-0. You go to ubreakwheelfix.com. Go to ubreakwheelfix.com or check them out in North Miami. Mention 5 Reasons. You'll get a discount on your overall order. They got really fast turnaround times and great quality. I've gone down there and visited the shop. Really cool people there. It's actually cool to watch them do it, to be honest. And I'm not really much of a car guy, but go to ubreakwheelfix.com or ubreakwheelfix on Instagram. You can see a lot of their work, as you can see here on the screen. Say hello to Mark and everybody else down there. They're right there in the Miami Shores area. So not too far if you're in Miami, or even if you're in Broward. As you can see, they're all over social media. All right, let's get to it today. And this is an overreaction week for the Miami Dolphins. I decided to give it a day. I didn't want to go into it so much yesterday. And again, we'll get into more Heat coverage next week. Media day is on Monday. But the Dolphins are in Las Vegas this weekend to play the Raiders. A late Sunday game. This one is not on Fox. I don't really know what that was about. And they're playing a team that may or may not have its quarterback, still sort of waiting on that. And they are a team that may or may not have its quarterback, although it's seeming, somewhat unlikely from some of the stuff that was coming out on social media and from the reporters yesterday. And rib injuries are the kind of thing that actually play right into the way the Dolphins handle this stuff, because they're sort of amorphous. You don't really know. It's pain tolerance for the most part. He's probably not going to have further injury. And so they're just going to keep this close to the wraps with Tua, and we'll probably find out from some national guy probably either Sunday before the game. He warmed up and he couldn't go, or something along those lines, or maybe at best on Friday. I don't anticipate we're going to hear before that. We'll see. But the pattern with this particular regime, which is a New England-style regime, is that they just don't tell you anything and they just don't care. And look, that's their business. I don't really think it helps from a football perspective. I don't really think it hurts. It is what it is. But with the Tua thing up in the air, and with the Dolphins looking beleaguered against a team in their division, that's not the Patriots. That's right. Imagine trading the Steelers safety for Noah. It is going to start to come down on Chris Grier. There's just no way around it, okay? The general manager can't skate when a team looks overmatched. And here's part of what Chris Grier is facing right now. For years and years and years, it was hard to know what he really did. That's not to say he didn't do anything. He did a lot of things, but it was hard to know what he had say on, because he was buried in the organization behind so many other people. Most of them proved to be incompetent. So you didn't know what he was responsible for and what he wasn't. And you didn't know what to blame him for or credit him for, because he wasn't the man in front. Well, now he's the man in front, and he has been now for a couple of years. He is the architect of this plan. This plan was to strip the thing down as much as you could, accumulate picks, use those picks to rebuild. Not the first franchise in a sport that's done this. Philadelphia did it in the NBA. Not working out so well right now, but they're like 3 GMs past. They are 3 GMs past the general manager who actually started it, which was Sam Hinkie. He never got a chance to finish it. The same way as Sashi Brown started it in Cleveland with the Browns and never got a chance to finish it. It looks like it worked in Cleveland, at least so far. but he's not the guy that got to ultimately use the picks that he acquired. In the case of Chris Grier, he has been given that opportunity. Steve Ross has given him the leeway, not only to break it down, but to build it back up. And here's the thing about that. It is harder to build it back up than it is to break it down. Anybody can break it down. Now, some aren't going to get as many assets for the players that they give up, but typically you're giving up good players. Even bad teams have good players. The Dolphins had some good players. Minka Fitzpatrick was a good player. Didn't seem to want to be here anymore, but he was a good player. Laramie Tunsil was a very good player. These were good players. But this was presented to us as observers, or you as fans, as the Dolphins' way of getting out of mediocrity, getting out of 20 years of 6-10 to 9-7, when you used to play 16. You were going to break this thing down and you were going to start completely fresh. You were going to bring in new stars. And that's where the problem is. So there are really two problems. The first problem for Chris Grier right now is that the offensive line is in tatters. They're literally playing deck chairs on a Titanic right now. Everybody's versatile, but nobody can play anywhere. It's not great. That's the biggest problem. Because here's the charge that Chris Grier was given as far as the way you rebuilt the roster. Get the quarterback and give the quarterback the best chance to succeed. That is how most general managers are judged. Do you find the right quarterback and do you give him the tools to succeed? That is how teams win Super Bowls. Patrick Mahomes. Did you get the quarterback? Did you give the quarterback the tools like Tyreek Hill, et cetera, to succeed? Now, last year in the Super Bowl, they didn't have the tools to succeed on the offensive line. So you know what they did? They flipped the whole thing in the offseason and it looks good. Tom Brady, you get the quarterback, but then you give him the tools to succeed. Okay, so let's see how Chris Grier is doing in those two areas. Well, I think he got the quarterback. I still believe in Tua. But if you don't give him the tools to succeed, are you ever going to know? And that's where they are right now. And that's why I think Chris Grier's job is going to be in jeopardy. Because even though there are some hits on his board, no question about it, okay? There are hits on his board. And you're not going to hit everything perfectly. And you're ultimately judged by the end result. And look, if you find a Nick Needham who can really play, then, drafting a corner in the first round who apparently can't is not as big an issue. But then when Nick Needham doesn't even play last week very much, 2 snaps, and you end up playing a guy who was a former practice squad player who really doesn't have a future in your organization, while your first-round pick is in street clothes, or not street clothes, but not active, that's not good. And so I think the problem that Chris Grier is going to have, okay, is that his owner, or the owner of the franchise, is going to go there to him and say, okay, do we have the quarterback? And Chris Grier is going to be like, well, I think so. And if you're an owner, you're going to say, well, what's the evidence of that? Is he on that path? Does he look like Justin Herbert looks? Does he look like this guy looks? And if you still believe in the quarterback, you want to say, yes, I think with the right pieces around him, this can work. And then the owner looks at you and goes, well, aren't you in charge of getting those pieces? And that's the problem. Because if the offensive line is going to be a freak show all year, and I don't see how it's not, okay? It seems like they've got a couple of interior linemen, right, that can play. I think Robert Hunt can play. But now you may have to move Robert Hunt out to tackle. So you're going to take a guy, and I'm fine with it because he can play tackle too, but you're going to take a guy who has finally sort of solidified one of the spots, and then you're going to throw that spot into chaos. This is whack-a-mole that they're playing with the offensive line. And it's not just about evaluating the players in particular when you throw so many picks at them, but it's also the way you decided to construct the offensive line. You decided to construct it with kids, developmental kids. Like, there's no anchor. Who's the anchor? Every time they brought in a center, Skura, Karras, he's been gone, right? The guard, whose name is escaping me, who's now starting elsewhere, that they cut loose before the season. Somebody can remind me. He was the Miami product who busted out with the Giants, but played, I thought, reasonably well here. You don't have a veteran anchor. Thank you, Eric Flowers. Appreciate that, Manny. You don't have a veteran anchor on this line. You don't have anybody who can go to the rest of the guys on this line, the young guys, and say, no, this is how you fucking do it. All I see with this offensive line is them reaching down to pick up their quarterbacks. They're good at that. But who's going to get in their bleep? Who's the Eric Mangold? Who is that guy on the line? The Patriots, as much as they've gone through linemen over the years, take a look at the last 20 years, how many linemen they've gone through. They've always had one. They've always had one guy who had been there. It was Matt Light for years. But they've always had one who, when they brought in these young guys, could tell them this is how we do things. This is how we handle protection. Soldier, exactly. They always have one. Who do the Dolphins have? They've got pretty much an inexperienced offensive line coach, inexperienced offensive coordinator, bunch of kids on the offensive line protecting a kid quarterback. And Chris Grier didn't expect something to go wrong? To me, this is not just about evaluation of the particular players. It's the way that you went about this. People could talk about not taking Sewell in the draft, okay, and how good he looks right away. And I get that. To me, the priority should have been go trade for or acquire in free agency a proven offensive lineman. It doesn't have to be an all-pro, but somebody who knows how to effing play, who knows how to call out a protection, okay, or knows how to react to the call out of a protection, who knows how to work in combo with another offensive lineman, who doesn't quit on a play. They didn't do that. So now you got these kids and you're like, okay, let's throw Hunt here and let's throw Jackson here and let's throw Kinley here and let's put Dieter. Dieter, we moved him to a new position. Okay, we're going to see how that one works out. And so what are you doing? And that's the point for me, Junior, on here. You basically count on Jesse Davis to be that guy. That's not enough. It's not enough because he's arguably been the worst guy for them so far. So to me, the reason, and I'm not for firing Chris Grier right now, whatever, we're going to see how the season plays out, okay? But to me, this is about two things. It was about the strategy of protecting your quarterback and giving him the best chance to succeed, and then it's about the execution of the players you actually picked. But he's in a hole right now. I mean, Jalen Waddle can look great, and I'm fine with the pick, but, like, it doesn't matter if the quarterback's on his ass. And so that, to me, is where Chris Grier is in jeopardy. This owner is impatient. And there's nothing more deflating for a team in the NFL than poor offensive line play. It is the killer. Because every time, like, you're at home in that stadium and the quarterback drops back and you're waiting for something good to happen. It's a passing league now. You wait, you're seeing receivers in motion, right? I've got a mismatch. I got this guy I can go to. I believe in my quarterback. He's going to make the right read, right? And he drops back, and in 1.5 seconds, he's on his ass. That's when you go get a beer. That's when you decide not to come back. That is a frustrating experience. There are equivalents in other sports. It's like when you've got a good hockey team, but the goalie's no good, and you give up soft goals. It's like when your baseball team is pretty damn good, but your closer sucks. There are certain elements of teams that if they are bad, it is incredibly deflating. And this offensive line right now is bad. And the problem is, yes, individually, these guys can get better. They're young. They've got room to grow, okay? But they're all trying to do it at the same time together, with no veteran leadership on that line. I mean, how if you're Jesse Davis as a captain, okay, however well-meaning you may be, how do you look at Austin Jackson and tell him to do his job, right? You just killed your quarterback inadvertently. That to me is where there's a real problem for Chris Grier. That is not an easy conversation to have with the man who signs the checks. You told me this guy was the quarterback. I think he is. Okay. So what's the problem? Well, we got to keep him upright. Who was in charge of bringing in the players to keep him upright? Me. It's pretty much where it's at. We're going to bring on Juan Cardona here in a second. Before we do, I want to tell you about another great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. You can see it up in the corner there. It's BetUS, betus.com. Easiest money I ever made. Michigan State plus 7.5 last week. My God, that was a gift. Go to betus.com. Use the code. No, it's the other code, sir. It's the other code. 5. We're going to use the code 5. There we go. FIVE. I'm sorry. We have too many damn codes. We use 4 codes in the network. Use the code 5, FIVE. Go to betus.com. They got the best live betting platform. You get your money quickly. They don't make you do thousands of rollovers. And as you can see up there at the top, you can bet anything. You do the esports. I don't understand that, but that's fine if you want to. You could do the casino, do just about anything. They got a bunch of cool promotions that go on there as well. And if you use the code word 5, you're going to get 125% off. Not off, I'm sorry. Nobody gets 125% off. Then they'd be giving it to you free. You just get 125% bonus. All right, there. I'm frazzled. The pressure is coming. And I've got Austin Jackson in front of me. So that's why I'm a little bit freaked out right now. All right, let's bring on our guy. You can find him at Exclusivity on Twitter.
Yo, I like that one. I like the intro. You're a little nervous because Austin Jackson's in front of you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's got wobbly feet. We're bringing on our guy, Juan Cardona. You can find him on the Extra Yard. Just did an episode last night, which you guys should definitely check out. I don't really know if you need to see Kai in a football helmet ever again. That's not something that I would encourage, but it was interesting stuff. Make sure you check out that episode.
Potential starting right tackle, so we got options now.
Well, you got a lot of options, and but Kai's getting in the gym though. I don't know if that's going to work out so well. But please, send in the comments. We'll try to get to these as we go forward. But I mean, Juan, my basic premise today is this. I mean, I'm not. I've been a fan of Chris Grier through the years from what I've heard he's done behind the scenes, but it is different when you are in the big chair. And not only when you're in the big chair, but when you've been given pretty much by ownership, whatever the criticisms of Steve Ross are, and I think some of them are valid, and I've expressed them over the years, he has given Chris Grier autonomy.
Free reign.
Free reign.
Build your team.
To do this thing, break it down. We'll go through the pain. Hopefully the pain won't be too long. You and Brian, you two of you guys work this out. What kind of players do you like? Going to rebuild it from scratch, get your picks. It was a clear strategy. We knew what it was. We knew who was executing it. Okay, so last year they go 10-6. Looks like the right track. They seem to have the right coach. And there were some promising things I thought done in this offseason. Yeah. But now we're starting to see patterns. We're starting to see positions that he can't fix.
Yeah.
How much jeopardy do you think he's in?
Well, I asked the hypothetical last night on the Extra Yard. I said, in the event, because going into the season, I predicted 9-8 and a 1-4 start. I said, if we're looking at a 1-4 start because Tua can't play the next couple of games, if we're looking at potentially finishing 9-8, who is this year's Chan Gailey? Like, who are we legitimately going to say, okay, well, it was his fault that we didn't get to this level? And I don't think Brian Flores' seat is hot yet or even warm yet. I do think it might be Chris Grier, though. I feel like Chris Grier at this point we're looking at, and Kai did a great breakdown of like literally all his drafts since 2016. And it leaves a lot to be desired because while the positions chosen were the correct ones, premium positions like quarterback, left tackle, cornerback, that type of stuff, safety, they just don't work out. Like the selections themselves, either they're really good and other teams end up getting them, or they're really bad and nobody wants them. So it's like there's even a possibility, Ethan, where we're walking into Sunday and Noah's not on the field, Tua's hurt, and Austin Jackson could be benched midway through the game. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about 2020 first round pick. So it's starting to seem a little insurmountable to what we're drafting and what potentially could happen to Chris Grier.
Well, are we now? I saw Kai's chart, which I thought was very well done. But are we starting the Chris Grier clock in 2016 or 2018? Because I'm unclear on that.
That's I guess we could leave that to interpretation, right? Because he was named GM 2016. he did take over as I think as VP of football operations as of 2018. The
Mm-hmm.
problem with that is if we're not giving him 2016, we're not giving him credit for drafting Tunsil, for drafting Xavier. And I
Mm-hmm.
think there was like one or two other players that
Yeah.
were actually pretty good that we weren't going to give him credit for. Maybe that helps him out because out of all of the drafts, 2017 is by far the worst. Charles Harris, Tank, I think it was
Mm-hmm.
Balaj on the draft too.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. It's hard because you want to start to maybe draw a line and say which guys are his and which guys aren't his, but then 2020 is his, you know. 2019 is also his, and eventually someone gonna have to pay the price. And I don't see it being Flores this year.
No, I don't think it's Flores. I don't think there's any chance that it's Flores, and I don't think it would be Flores for a couple of years. I feel like he would have to completely lose the confidence of his team, which I don't think is going to happen. And then beyond that, I think that he'd have to look incompetent on the field, which he does not. Okay, I think there is a case to be made that he seems to struggle to identify the right people to lead things on the offensive side. I think that is fair. And I'm not just talking about coordinator. I'm talking about maybe it's position groups, whatever.
Yeah.
That does not seem to be working necessarily the way that it should be working. But with that being said, coming back to Grier here, I think that, again, a GM is ultimately judged by the body of work, by the success of the team. The win-loss record, the playoff success determines it. It's only when a team just misses that we start to pick apart particular things. Like if a team is bad, the GM is gone. Okay. Yeah. If the team is really good, then the GM is going to survive, even if he made this move or this move that was not good or whatever. Okay. But if the team is like on the cusp of doing something, but something is holding it back, that is typically where it's like, then you got to have a long, hard conversation. And that's where you start to pick this stuff apart.
Start to nitpick little things and
And if this team misses the playoffs at 9-8 or something like that in the third year of this kind of restructuring rebuild, then I do think that it comes down to, okay, what was the problem? All right. You spent a lot of money on some defensive, like Byron Jones, you got there. You spent money on defense. You drafted these type of players, did all this. You let a lot. And then it also becomes, you brought in some free agents the past few years. They don't seem to survive more than 1 year, like Kyle Van Noy, right?
You're paying Eric Flowers right now to go make holes for Washington. So
right. Okay. Eric Flowers lost it. I mean, just there's a lot of guys that they've drafted who are now contributing in other places or they could have contributed here, but you decided after a year, okay, that's not a fit. Now, again, if you can find something better, I'm fine with upgrades, Juan. Okay. That's fine. But I'm just saying that it becomes an issue when you start to nitpick. And my thing is this, and I said this opening, in the open. If you want your quarterback to succeed, which is really what this is all about, the quarterback succeeds, the team's probably going to be good. Okay, that's it. Okay,
with that defense for sure.
Right. Okay. So you want your quarterback to succeed. So I guess I don't understand the philosophy of having all kids on the offensive line. Regardless of whether they're good or not, Juan. Like I don't you have to have an anchor, like one or two guys who they put their hand in the dirt and they're MFers, and they've done this thing before. They may be physically limited, they may whatever, but they like Liam Eichenberg in 10 years. Like that why don't they have one of those guys on this roster?
I think I think their idea of that guy is Jesse Davis.
That's right.
That's it. That's that's just saying something, man. It's like, as much as we love Flores, we know one thing he is he's pretty stubborn, right? And sometimes with these type of players, like you see it where maybe they're not the best choice, but they're a choice. And you look at it kind of with like the Bobby McCain situation. Maybe he wasn't the best safety, but he was definitely a safety that Flores felt comfortable out there running his defense. Well, eventually he did need to get replaced, and we drafted Javon Holland, and as of now, it's looking like a hit. I just don't know. I don't see the quick solution. Like if you tell me, let's go sign Schwartz and we're gonna put Austin out and we're gonna move everybody around. I don't know if that works week 3 in the NFL. Like it's just hard for me to see all that change, all that turmoil going on midweek, mid-practice, and then it actually working and being successful later on. Like, how are we gonna get the RPO going if we literally can't run? How are we gonna do anything deep with Fuller, with Waddle, when we can't hold up for more than 2 seconds? Like, it's, these type of losses, like, I get it. It's only week 2, but for me, they start to really make me question like the overall vision, because it is a 35-0 skunk against a division rival where you were potentially going to go up 2-0 and then 0-2. And realistically, after Tool got hurt, it just felt like everybody was just demoralized. And outside of maybe Brandon Jones, AVG, and Ogba, everybody just kind of just took the beating.
Well, and here's, you mentioned the Bills, and here I think is another problem for Chris Grier. Is I've been hearing about for the last 20 years. Well, when Brady leaves New England, we're going to be the team that's there when Brady leaves New England. You're not the team that's there when Brady leaves New England. Now, I know the Bills had a head start on this because the Dolphins were going through their breakdown prior to that, but you don't even look close to it. And that, to me, is the issue, is that, like, the opportunity was there, and you have passed New England to a degree. We saw that in the season opener, right? And you've beaten them a couple of times lately, but ultimately there's a team that looks far superior to you in the division that now you're going to be chasing. And that to me is a big problem. We're going to follow more on this with Juan in a second. Before we do, tell you about another sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm going to be running some drafts later today. If your fantasy team is all bleeped up already, if you're the New York Giants, go to underdogfantasy.com. Go to underdogfantasy.com. This one, yes, different code. This one, the code is 5RSN. That's right, 5RSN. You can play in their tournaments there, but you can also enter into some of their drafts. You can enter with your friends. You can play with like 2 of your friends and just draft for the week and have fun with it. Go to 5RSN, $25 bonus when you go there. Again, it's an Underdog Fantasy. You can download the app, see it. It's a real easy, nice, fun platform. They also, we do this with somebody else on our network, but you can do the player props here too. So make sure that you check those out when you're there on the app. But go to Underdog Fantasy. Get started today and get your free $25. Get your free $25 and play in like $5 leagues. You got nothing to lose. So give that a shot over at Underdog Fantasy. All right. So Juan, I mean, getting back to the whole Bills conversation here and to the bigger picture of the season. Okay. Like you mentioned, Tua, we don't know. And to be honest, this is the kind of injury that's incredibly frustrating to follow because it is pain tolerance for the most part. And so
you're going to be day to day till the end of time.
Correct. Right. Exactly. Until there's Tua Jr. playing quarterback. We're not going to know. Okay. This is how they do things. Okay. And look, it's not just the Dolphins. The Heat do it too.
Yeah.
It's just no. I mean, Spoelstra. I mean, literally, Justice Winslow still may be coming back from that back injury. I'm not sure. This is how they do stuff. But this is going to be frustrating to follow. Yeah. But you're right. This team could be 1-4 when they could be staring down the barrel of it. They're already down a tiebreak or down a game to the Bills in terms of head-to-head. I mean, it's like you get to 1-4, you basically are pissing the division away. Like
are we saying we feel confident going into Buffalo for Halloween and getting a W?
No.
I say that's the thing. So it's like that's already
5 guys dressed as turnstiles on Halloween. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So
yeah. I mean, it's so that's the thing. So you really are talking about the wild card, and when you're talking, which is where we thought they would be, but like when you're talking about the wild card, then you're talking about. I mean, the AFC, at least on paper, looked better than the NFC this year. There's some NFC teams that have popped a little bit early that I think were unexpected. Yeah, exactly. But for the most part, I think the AFC has more depth of quality. Sure. Okay, and so you're talking about competing with some teams that is going to be a real struggle for you.
Cleveland, Buffalo, the Raiders. I mean,
Baltimore's not going anywhere. Pittsburgh is not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the AFC's tough, man. AFC's tough, and look, I said it multiple times last night. I understand it's only 1 loss. I understand it's only a week 2 loss. But these type of losses, again, make me start to question the vision, because if you're just going to chalk it up and say, hey, you know what, we just don't match up well against the Bills. Well, I mean, maybe you got to reevaluate the plan then, because if you're just never going to be able to get over the Bills who are in your division, how can you have Super Bowl aspirations? How can you have?
Well, that's true. But Juan, let me ask you this. Give me one before we go. Give me one thing, like if you're trying to compete with the Bills, because for years it was trying to compete with the Patriots,
Yeah.
what would you do? What would you acquire to compete with the Bills? What would be your direction?
I would do it the way you try to beat Kansas City, where you're not necessarily going to outscore them, but if you play ball control, if you keep Mahomes off the field, you give yourself a chance. Now,
Well, then they haven't built this team like that at all.
at all, at all, at all.
Because they've got pretty much average running backs. They're fine, but no one elite behind an offensive line that can't block for them like that. I mean, that literally. I mean,
The thing is like at some point, I can't always blame the players, right? Like if they're gonna draft power guards, but then have finesse tackles. I can't blame the guards for not being able to block zone, and I can't blame the tackles for not being able to block power. We're just choosing the wrong guys, and it's like somebody. I feel it, Ethan. Like if this goes bad, if this goes south, I don't think it's just two on the seat. I think somebody else is going to have to be the scapegoat.
No, I think it's Grier. I absolutely. I think that's the conclusion we've come to. It's Grier, and again with the offensive line, it comes down to three things. Okay. It comes down to the philosophy of the types of players you're trying to pick.
Yep.
Okay. It goes to what you're deploying to get those guys, and then it goes to sort of it goes to the players you are picking, and then it goes to the way they're being coached. And I think there seem to be problems with all three right now. There's a philosophical problem here with going out and banning a bunch of kids. To protect a young quarterback. I think the players that they picked, some of them may pan out. I think Hunt has a chance. I think, but for right now, I think there's questions about Austin Jackson for sure. And then I think you go to the third one, which is the way they're being coached. And they look to me like they don't know where the protections, they don't know and they don't trust each other. They don't trust each other. I'm not talking about as human beings. I'm just saying they just don't trust each other to be in the right place.
Look what the Dolphins' answer was to having our tackles just destroyed against Buffalo. Mm-hmm. They decided to bench Solomon Kindley.
Right.
I don't know if that's the answer. I don't know if that's the solution. But the way they're putting it, it's like, oh, well, Austin Jackson is struggling because of who's next to him.
Well, and that's the other thing, Juan, is then when you got a young group and they start looking at these guys are together all the time.
Yep.
They're in the position group meetings together. They hang out together, and then they're looking and they're like, wait, I'm the problem?
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, like Jesse Davis got our quarterback killed. Austin Jackson hasn't blocked anybody since the start of preseason.
Yeah,
I'm the problem? Like
It's scheme to me. Look at the first play, and I'll drill it to everybody. That first play was two people running a route, was 8 in protection. Ethan Carter started on Austin Jackson's side, motioned over to help Jesse Davis with a chip, and Austin Jackson ends up letting a corner get a blitz in. And
Solomon Kindley's benched. And
that's the solution.
Anyway, Juan Cardona, follow him at Exclusivity. No I in him, no I in team. I'm gonna go about my day hoping that somebody else is blocking for me on the road. I'll be back next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, probably we'll be reviewing Heat Media Day because we need something positive to talk about because I'm not feeling good about Sunday. Follow our sponsors, You Break, Wheel Fix, Underdog Fantasy, and of course, Bet US, and you can figure out all the codes. Have a good day.